Let's do this.
Welcome back to Tackling Misguided. I'm your host, Pat. My co-host with me, as always,
Lobo.
For today's episode, episode 26.
KOPFJAGER.
No headshots, please.
No headshots.
So before we really dive in to the meat and potatoes of this episode, obviously it's going to be all about snipers. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for this, Savage Tacticians, as posted right there. Be sure after you watch the episode, like this video, like all the fucking videos. Head over to, I'll put it in the description, head over to savtac.com. Check out their new drops. They just came out with a badass fucking new graphic tee. And they've got a bunch of new swim trunks coming out since we're in beach season. On a side note from that, the other company that Kevin owns that's now sponsoring us, Bulkhead Energy, he actually gave me this to today to give a try. So do the honors there, buddy. It's pineapple.
It's pineapple. I will tell you that the nootropics in this are actually really good. Like on par with buying like nootropics themselves. So
all I care about is that I don't get like a fucking crash from that shit, and it gives me the it doesn't give me the jitters. All right, that's our little fucking sponsorship shout out, guys. Let's go ahead and kick it. So, Hunter, what the fuck is a sniper, and what do they identify as? Is it non-binary, female, male?
A sniper is a military or paramilitary marksman who engages targets from positions of concealment or at distances exceeding the target's detection capabilities. Snipers generally have specialized training and are equipped with high-precision rifles and high-magnification optics, and often also serve as scout observers, feeding tactical information back to their units or command headquarters. Now, that's a general synopsis of what a sniper is. There are some shifts as warfare evolves, it changes.
So before we start, I'm going to go ahead and interject this in here. Before we started talking, you were mentioning about how we had better optics, or before we started recording anyway, that we had better optics in World War I than we did in Vietnam.
Starting off in Vietnam. Starting off. Yes.
Starting off.
Absolutely. 1965, we were using deer hunting rifles with, it was a unerdal scope. They used deer hair for the actual crosshairs. In fact, the optics that are in the museum, they're so old from, early 1960s that the deer hair has fallen off and it looks like a ghost duplex.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
We had suppressors in World War I. We had sniper craft. We had ghillie suits. We had bipods. We had counter sniper tactics, all gone to the wayside. Then World War II came up, and then we did the same thing, and then Korea. And then we had Vietnam. Then we had the Gulf War with Stay, the movie Jarhead.
Yeah.
Then we had the GWAT, and now what's going on now? What happened to the Marine Corps sniper program?
Well, that's a kind of a broad question because I guess they got rid of it.
Gone. It's fucking gone.
They got rid of it. Now it's, I guess, line company snipers integrated with doing the role of a marksman.
No, they're basically. We'll delve into that when we talk a little bit further into it. But why don't you give us the definition of the Marine Corps' definition of the scout sniper?
So a USMC scout sniper is a Marine highly skilled in fieldcraft marksmanship who can deliver long-range precision fire on select targets and concealed positions in support of combat operations.
So
where did that go?
You nailed 99% of it. Some of the stuff that isn't in there that's inherent to the job is the surveillance and target acquisition. So the problem that we have now is that they've removed the sniper capability from the conventional force level below the battalion. So they have moved the snipers into your reconnaissance battalion. Reconnaissance battalion is a MAGTF asset or a MU asset. So it's above where it should be. So we see this happening in other militaries, such as like Russia and China, where they put specialized troops way high up in order to support a large portion of troops. However you decide to break it down, whether it's battalions, whether it's regiments. So what you're having now is you've basically taken away what should be an organic task for these infantry units, and you've removed it. So now you're saying we don't need this capability. We'll just have some designated marksmen or sharpshooters.
So, what is the difference between a marksmanship or a sharpshooter versus designated marksman?
So a marksman or a sharpshooter are just they're just colloquial sayings for somebody that's a good shot. Like in the Marine Corps, we have and in the Army.
Except sharpshooters in the Marine Corps aren't good shots.
Well, I mean,
I
better
know I
than-
was one of those.
At least you weren't
Until
a
my
pi-
last like
a
4
pi-
years.
a pizza box. What is it, marksman?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So essentially, a designated marksman is somebody that can fill the capability gap between a rifleman and somebody that is delivering precision fires, such as a sniper. So the problem is that you have to send somebody to this school. First off, they have to be fit. They have to be able to use their brain, be adaptive, and also shoot long distances. We're talking over 1,000 yards. You can't do that with most riflemen. So you're already from that pool is getting smaller and smaller as you add these additional taskers or requirements on for the capabilities that a sniper would need. So essentially it's economy. So you'll wind up getting a guy that can shoot. Maybe he's not quality of a sniper, but he can at least shoot. And I can then put those into the organic smaller units that are going out. So I can maybe attach a sniper to a company, but the squad or the platoon will have a designated marksman. And it's usually a magnified optic. Well, one of the big ones was the EBR, the M14 variants that we had. And those started in Vietnam. And now we had the SR-27. We had a couple other ones that were pretty decent when it came to using these platforms for designated marksmen. And as that role has evolved and widened, we now kind of in the United States Marine Corps don't really use a designated marksman as we did. We have an IAR gunner, which is kind of a really retarded means of taking our light machine gunner away and then giving him a sub-minute of angle gun that's on full auto, which is kind of fucking stupid. But
if it's stupid and it works,
it's not.
It's not stupid.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question is going to be scouting, surveillance, reconnaissance versus assault support versus targeting.
So what we had initially when we look at like these the marksmen of we'll call it the first age of marksmen, snipers. So what we had initially were guys that were using smoothbore muskets to pick off leadership. Now, you had that completely separate from your scouts. Your scouts would go out, and we talked about this in our Boer War episode, where Boy Scouting came from. We would essentially have light infantry or skirmisher style guys that would go out, and they would basically live light infantry off the land, moving around, mapping and figuring out where the enemy was so that they could feed that information back. Well, at one point, they're like, hey, we'll just add these two skill sets together. Guy can have a long-range musket, and he can go out and find the enemy, send back communications, and all that jazz, so the commander knows what's going on. Like when we get a little bit further on, and we talk about like the top 21 furthest sniper shots, 2 are from the 1800s. One of them's from the Civil War. It's over 1,000 yards with a musket.
What the fuck?
Yep. So. When we're talking about the scouting and surveillance and reconnaissance is I want to send my guys out to go check out this specific thing. It's a task, it's a place, it's a unit. They're doing reconnaissance on a zone or an area. They're doing it specific for whatever task that commander has given them. When it comes to surveillance, that's just all weather, day and night. You can send people out there to do surveillance. Law enforcement does surveillance. When we're talking about assault support versus targeting is a very colorful euphemism of saying we're going to schwack these dudes.
So you're like creating a target package.
You're assassinating.
That kind of,
yes. Yeah. And targeting is used by everybody that uses lethal effects with a scope weapon or non-scope weapon. So like terrorist organizations that are out assassinating political opponents, that's considered targeting. What we do in our find, fix, finish, exploit, assess, and disseminate, the F3 EAD process within special operations, that is targeting. Essentially, the finish part is what you're talking about. So assault support is where the DM, the designated marksman, and the sniper both have a role to play. Designated marksmen are constantly on assault support, whereas snipers, it's one of the many skill sets. So you could be on a reconnaissance mission, you could be going out and doing surveillance for whatever unit is out there. You could be going out to take out key leadership like what Carlos Hathcock did. We'll talk a little bit about him.
My favorite.
And then you have assault support snipers, what they did in Ramadi, what they did in Fallujah, what the guys in Black Hawk Down were doing. You're basically the long range marksman that can go in and support whatever maneuver is happening on the ground, if that makes sense.
Look, yeah. All right. So kick. This one I'm really interested in.
Conventional versus special operations versus a regular. Yeah. This is kind of a long one. So conventional snipers.
Give us the synopsis.
The synopsis. The conventional sniper goes through a sniper school. Army has sniper school. Marine Corps has a sniper school. Every branch has some sort of sniper school. And then special operations components, they have their own school that they do. Yeah. So like, excuse me, regular Army has an 8-week course. It used to be 8 weeks. I may be wrong, but it's an 8-week course, and that is what the conventional Army, and it's done at the division level. In the Marine Corps, it's the same thing. It's a division level school. So like we had AITB West, which was out in Oahu. Then you had one in Pendleton, and then you had one in Lejeune, and then you had a special one up in Quantico. So the Quantico one did team leaders. They ran some scout sniper courses out there, but for the most part, you have 3 Marine divisions. So we had one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one in Hawaii. They didn't have one in Okinawa, but 3rd Marines would send their guys to.
Well, first Marine Division used to be. No, was it? No, it was 3rd. 3rd used to be Oki, and then it got moved.
Well, so they would send their snipers over to Oahu to get trained up.
Yeah,
and that's where I went to Scout Sniper School. So that's the conventional force. And then special operations. Special forces have SIFSIT, which used to be called SODIC, Special Operations Terminal Interdiction Course, or Target Interdiction Course. And then it's SIFSIC, Special Forces Sniper Course. MARSOC has what's called MASC, which is the MARSOF Advanced Sniper Course. NSW has their own thing. The differences between those two, and I'll get to a regular, but those two is when you're going to a conventional sniper course, they're grinding the meat out. You have to earn your spot. You have to basically screen, get to the course, and they're still trying to cut people in the course. Yeah, and it was a crap shot when you looked at scout sniper courses, because you could graduate 2 guys, you could graduate 8 guys. I think we had 8 original guys that started out of 32, and these guys have already been through the pre-screener. They're in stay platoons. They're from the reconnaissance units. They're really just crushing these dudes to trim the fat. When you get to SIFSIC or NSW or MASC, it's a gentleman's course. It's tough, like it's difficult. They still drop people for shooting, but they're not out there making you run suicides with a telephone pole from the 1,000. Like that literally happened. We took an extra long lunch because somebody pissed off the guys up on the firing line. We were in the pits, and these dudes are doing suicides with a fucking telephone pole from the Grand. So that's a grand, 900, grand, 800, grand. And you see it? Yeah, that's where I'm
doing
going.
The fucking
but they didn't
shamrock drills, but with a fucking telephone pole.
They did not give a fuck. Well, and then you have regular snipers, a regular warfare snipers. That would be like the IRA, the PLO. Those are non-state actors or supported non-state actors from, like, we'll call it paramilitary units.
Yeah,
that are taught or either teach themselves how to do sniping. So, and that there's a wide variety. It could be somebody that just learns how to shoot on their own to somebody that's trained up by like a special forces Jedburgh team or an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Qud forces. Like they trained a shit ton of this Syrian snipers are trained by the Iranians, and they actually have a decent sniping program. You can get on Google and look up sniper compilation. ISIS had a very good sniper program because they didn't give a shit. They didn't practice discretion. They didn't have a commander telling them what to do. And when you look at the Marine Corps Scout Sniper program, you had 2 different people in that program. So essentially you had Scout Sniper platoons, stay platoons. Surveillance and target acquisition is what it used to be called. Then they changed it to Scout Sniper platoons. The bulk of that platoon was made up of the acronym PIGs, Professionally Instructed Gunmen. And those PIGs were riflemen that screen for sniper platoons, and they get to the sniper platoon, and then when you get to the sniper platoon as a PIG, you have to earn yourself a spot to sniper school. So once you went through sniper school, basic or what they call the scout sniper course, you would become a hog, a hunter of gunmen. You would receive the 8541 or the 0317 MOS. I know dudes that are pigs that have more kills than most snipers do. So you could say, oh, he was in a sniper platoon. Within the Marine Corps, somebody's gonna be like, well, was he a hog or was he a pig? That's just people tooting their own horn, trying to see whose dick is bigger. But at the end of the day, like Steve Reichert, the guy who started T1G, he had one of the longest sniper shots with a Rofus round, and he was a pig. He never went through sniper school. And I personally know several pigs that are over at MARSOC now that never went to sniper school. They were in sniper platoons for their entire 4 years for their enlistment. But we'll talk a little bit about what it entailed. When you get there, they break it into 2 phases. You have stalking and shooting. And then there's a bunch of other stuff in there, from using HF radio to camouflage. The stalking portion in Hawaii really kind of screwed a lot of people over, whereas like stalking in Pendleton wasn't as hard, but shooting in Pendleton was a little bit harder. At the end of the day,
shooting in Pendleton was a lot harder because like every fucking range I went to out there was a damn whirlwind.
I mean, we shot in Oahu on our unknown distance range in the bowl at the edge. So we had 3 crosswinds on 1 shot. We were doing max point blank, which is I aim center of the target, and depending on my dope, it's going to land in the face or the groin. You're basically being able to I set my dope at 300, and I can hit the target at 150 to 450, 500. So that's
Kentucky windage, baby.
And that's essentially what it is. You're aiming center, and you're going to hit up and down as long as you get that wind call right. But you're also going off of Mirage. You're watching how the Mirage plays, and you're doing your wind calls that way. So you're shooting at night, you're shooting during the day, you're doing unknown distance, you're doing max point blank, you're doing multiple target engagement, you're doing mill holds. Then you got to go stalk 400. Well, in Quantico, they have 1,000-meter stalk. In Hawaii, I think it was 400 or 500 was the longest, 300 was the shortest. You still had to get within still get within 300 yards of the target. So I'm saying that stalk, that 1,000 is 1,000. You basically had to stalk at 700 meters with guys that are on binos. These are sniper instructors that are watching you. You go up, you get into your FFP, your final firing position, you shoot a blank. Then they walk over to you, try and find you 3 times. Then you have to shoot while they're looking at you. You literally shoot while they're looking at you. And yes, it's a blank, but it still creates a blast.
Yeah, it still creates the fucking muzzle flash.
So
are you not running suppressors when you're doing that?
You are, but that increases the path. That basically what you had to do was you had to sneak up and pat everything down in front of your position. Otherwise, as soon as you shoot, it's going to blow everything away. You're going to have debris flying up. So I went to sniper school after I went through selection and was in MARSOC. Like, I didn't have to go to scout sniper school. Now, the problem that they ran into initially with MARSOC is they used MASC as an add-on course. So you already had to be a sniper. So you had to be an 0317 or an 8541, have graduated from one of those schools. And then you could go to MASC. MASC was a month and a half long. It was high angle, urban, and they did some stuff from helos, and then they did some other stuff. But at the end of the day, when you look at this, if you go to all the sniper schools within the Marine Corps, you were called a Razorback. So you would go through your basic course, your high angle, and then in the MEU with SOTG or EOTG or whatever they're calling it now, you would go through
EOTG.
Yeah, you would go through urban sniper. So it's pretty cool when you look at it, and it's kind of really depressing to see the Marine Corps do something so stupid, because this is the most interesting thing about the Scout Sniper program was it had a soft level qualification. It had a special operations level qualification. The Army and the Navy would send their guys to Scout Sniper. They would go through this course by Big Marine Corps and come out with a special operations qualification. That's how fucking good this course was. It's 3.5 months of.
It was part of the pipeline, right? Or it could be part of the pipeline, right?
No.
Oh.
No, it was used because you had so many dudes that needed to get qualified as snipers. I could send my guys to SIFSIC or SODIC or whatever. But the problem was you were sending guys that had already been to selection or BUDS or ANS and ITC, and they were going to this course and they were getting their shit kicked in, and they're like, I don't want to fucking do this. I want a gentleman's course. I've already proven myself. That's what sucked, is like as an operator, you show up and you're getting fucking hazed with these lance corporals for 3 fucking months. You're carrying 90 pounds on your back. It just sucks ass. We're running about 30 miles a week running around with these almost 100-pound packs. And at the end of it, you had to do an FTX, and we did a 20K. And I think my pack was 78 pounds, not including the rifle, as we're doing this thing through the Waiapiu fucking mountains up there in Hawaii.
Now, what rifle were you using?
We were using the 40.
The 40?
The 40. I think the one we had was an A5. They have the A7 now. It's a travesty that the Marine Corps never went away from 7.62x51 because everybody else has gone to 300. 300 Win Mag, 300 Ultra, 300 PRC. The Marine Corps is stuck with that because we have a surplus of it. And the guns are cheaper and easier to maintain. And the Marine Corps doesn't like change unless it's in the wrong direction, like getting rid of your fucking tanks. But when we look at that, you had an amazing program that was so fucking good that Special Ops said, this right here, this counts. Like a conventional, if you went to Army Sniper School, it didn't mean anything. If you went to Rangers or you went to Q course, you had to start again. You had to go to another sniper school. Did it help? Absolutely. Like if you were a sniper from the conventional side. So you had a soft level qualification and it was really hard. So like you had SEALs that were making it through BUDS and SQT and getting to their SEAL teams. And then they're going to this sniper course that's run by regular Marines and dudes are failing. And they're like, okay, well, let's make a course that's a gentleman's course, essentially. So that's in a nutshell what happened. Now, the problem is like I said, there's classes where they graduated 2 snipers. You can't keep those numbers up. The problem is like once you start taking people away for recon, people away from MARSOC, you're left with a smaller pool. And the great thing about Scout Sniper is they didn't water down any of the qualifications or any of the hard gates. They kept everything pretty much the same. And so it was interesting to see like dudes that were way more prepared than myself when I got to Hawaii. I had never touched a sniper rifle. I never went through a pre-sniper. I never went through any of that stuff, which kind of helped me. I had no bad habits. But at the same time, there was a corporal there with 2 fucking deployments, one to Iraq and one to Afghanistan. This dude had shot people with this same gun I was, just now finding out. He had been in FFPs. He had set up hide sites. So he knew all this stuff. He failed. Yeah.
Why did they fail him?
Because he didn't make it. Like there are qualifications you have to pass every single day. And we dropped 2 guys for shooting and the rest for stalking. And stalking was fucking hard. I remember drinking 2 Camelbacks, crawling through that fucking nasty. They were basically shrimp farms. They were dug in these embankments on all 4 sides. So you couldn't really use anything other than your compass. So they would drop you off on one side, you'd get in your veg site, and then you'd start your stalk. And then you would just basically stalk in a direction and be burning through brush or using your binos trying to find this fucking truck. And then you had to shoot on it or shoot these blanks. You had to identify. There was a whole myriad of things you had to do that could go wrong. And when you got your first 100, you're like, dude, I can do anything. And then you would have the guys that were just like ninjas. There was a guy that got within, I think, 8 feet of the truck. He got, and it was on like his last stock. So he just got up there and just shot his rifle as a joke. Yeah. But then you had guys that were struggling just to get within range and not get busted.
So within range, what would that be? 1,000?
Within 300.
Within 300 yards.
Within you had to be under 300, so 299, and you had
so
to
you would start at like 1,000, right? Or,
in Quantico, yes, not in Hawaii. In Hawaii, I think the furthest one we did was like maybe 500. Schofield was kind of far. It was basically a giant mud pit with these like barren trees. Looked like a World War I battlefield. It was terrible.
Looked like the fucking no man's land.
I got to second base with Swamp Thing on that. It was bad. Let's talk a little bit about some famous ones. Like everybody knows Carlos Hathcock, right? White Feather. Yep. So he actually didn't have the most kills in Vietnam. He was number 3. What Carlos Hathcock is best known for, him and Major Jim Land actually set up the sniper program in Da Nang. And so they brought it back to Hawaii. When the Marine Corps left Vietnam, they said, we don't need a sniper program. These 2 gentlemen, like Carlos Hathcock passed away, but Major Jim Land brought this to Hawaii. They both did. And they created the entire Scout Sniper program. and it was in existence until what, this year?
Yeah, so that's
So
what, the like mid 70s to this year. Yeah.
no, they started in 60, what was it, 65 or 68?
So they
I'm
started at the
blanking.
beginning
They started in the beginning
when we were just
from
fucking
scratch
advisors over
with deer hunting rifles. Now, what he's most known for is he took a M2, flipped it on its side, and shot a dude off a bike.
Yeah,
with a
that's
50.
the one we always fucking hear about.
Yeah, well,
with the mod deuce.
you also hear about him stocking up and shooting in general. Like, he had the sexiest missions of Vietnam. Chuck Mahoney is actually had the highest kill rate in Vietnam when it came to being a sniper, because he actually did missions where he was going against large enemy units. In fact, he was the dude who had an M14, 20-round box mag, 19 Viet Cong crossing the river at night. He had an old PVS-1 Moonlight, and he basically shot them from back to front. Shot them from the first, as soon as the last guy got into the water, he started picking them off one by one. He had 1 round left in that box mag. Now he had a spotter and he had more ammo, but
yeah,
that's fucking insane. There are most guys that go through a whole combat deployment in SF or in MARSOC, and they don't shoot 19 people throughout the whole deployment. So that in and of itself, Chuck Mahoney is still alive. A lot of people don't know about him because he didn't write any. I think he finally wrote a book, but it took people going up to him and being like, "Hey, we have young men that are going into this profession, and you are probably the most versed person in the Marine Corps in existence right now to help these young men." And so finally, he was like, "Yeah, I'll go ahead now. I have a knife because I took an award at Hawaii Scout Sniper School, and it's got his fucking signature on it. It's badass as shit. It's a fucking."
So you actually met him?
I didn't meet him. I got the knife for
the
Instructor's Choice Award. The other one that we'll talk about.
Hang on. I like what you did here.
Well, we're gonna leave that out. We'll leave that out. Okay. Sometimes I put stuff down here that I don't want to read out loud. We'll just leave it at that. He won the medal. He won the Medal of Honor.
Damn, I wanted to say that.
No, he's social media makes you do really dumb shit. I feel bad for people that have to go through traumatic situations and stuff, and how they can kind of lose who they are as a person. But
True.
We'll talk about Eric England. So he was the Phantom of Phu-Bai. He was a sniper during Vietnam. He had 98 confirmed kills in 7 months. So if you actually average it out, that dude had the higher kill rate. He had less kills than Chuck Mahoney or Carlos Hathcock, but for prolonged exposure to combat for just 7 months. Other guys had multiple tours. This guy had 7 months. He actually got wounded because I think a tour there was 9 months to a year, depending on. But yeah, Eric England was an amazing sniper. Another one is Adelbert Waldron, and he actually had the most in Vietnam. And he was an Army sniper, just an average Army sniper. I say average. He killed 109 human beings that are confirmed. So,
that's not average.
That's not average. Like those are some C1.
We would call that above average length.
We'll talk about Chris Kyle has for the U.S. And Chris Kyle does have one of the longest shots in the top 21 of snipers. Believe it or not, the newest one is a Ukrainian. He used I think it's called an Alligator. It's an anti-material rifle that he put a scope on. Smoked a Russian just with a 20 millimeter round.
From how far?
Third in the world, so like over 2,000 meters. Because the world record is over 3,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah, wild. Chris Kyle did assault support. So, and I wouldn't even call it assault support. He was the SEALs in Ramadi, and this is one of the things that people will get pissed off at me about, is they did rear action. So what was happening is the Army was putting up a bunch of stuff throughout Ramadi and Fallujah and other cities, and they were getting sniped by the Juba. There's no Juba, but that's what they consider as the insurgent snipers in Iraq. Now, there was a bunch of videos that came out in the early 2000s, and there were these propaganda things that they were Chechens and all this. They had a really good sniper program, but we would always find them and kill them. But what was happening is you needed to have guys that could go out and do counter sniper. So Chris Kyle and a bunch of these SEALs were in Ramadi. So they work out, they'd eat, and then they'd go infill into a location that they had security on, so nobody could come and hit them.
Yeah.
And then they would go ahead, and he could shoot 30 guys in a day. I mean, you're going against cavemen.
And his
So-
fucking longest shot was actually
His
it
longest
was
shot,
a bunch of
it's in the top 20.
it was well,
he
you know,
actually
the movie portrayed some bullshit, but it was actually
it was a
but it was a dude. Well, there was several of them. Like when you read the book about it, it was several of them coming across the river on like fucking
beach balls.
Beach balls.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
drowned.
just like taking bets, having fun, fucking
Yeah.
shooting the beach balls.
Yeah.
And fucking that's where he got his longest shot from.
Well, and I'm not taking it away from him. The guy killed fucking hundreds of people. Like, that's awesome. But when you compare that to your scout sniper teams, we're talking regular Marine Corps scout sniper teams that are infilling into hostile controlled areas with hide sites. They can't afford to reuse stuff. They don't get security. One of the sad stories is there was a Marine Reserve scout sniper team that had infilled like the 5th time in a row in the same exact location. 5 of these dudes got smoked. The dude on the stairs, they went through and they kind of tried to recreate what happened, but the guy fell asleep on security and got shot through the top of his head. And then
So that's why
rushed
why Firewatch is so important.
Yeah, well, they rushed
Unless you're
them.
3-6 and you fall asleep next to the road and your rifles get stolen.
Well, that's just called
saying.
5-finger discount. But the thing that people don't understand is you're so fucking tired. You're hungry. You're usually shitting your brains out. And by the time you get there, all that stuff is set in. So these dudes have to make an urban hide site. And they've done it the 5th time in a row. The Iraqis they were not fucking stupid. They grew up without running water. When we look scientifically in the book, Germs, Guns, and Steel, they say, who's smarter? Somebody that grew up in the jungle with no running water or somebody that grew up in a city? Most people would say, oh, a city. No, the person that grew up without running water, with no justice system, that dude is battling the elements. He's battling his fellow man. His IQ is actually higher than a person that lives in a developed country. He doesn't have all the niceties of
He doesn't have the
everyday life.
luxuries and
Exactly. So yes, these Iraqis may not know what fucking GPS was at the time. They had colleges. They had a functioning country. In the 1970s, Iraq was a pretty flourishing country before they decided to go into the Iraq-Iran war. Saddam actually, when he first started out, had a very robust economy. It was one of the best in the Middle East. So you can't say these people were stupid. So if somebody comes in here and they've occupied the same shooting position 5 times in a row, well, I'm just going to plan an ambush. And that's exactly what happened. And they got fucking pretty much massacred. Like, it was pretty gruesome. They got, like, the ones that weren't shot were basically stabbed and beheaded. So there's something to be said
made
about
examples out of.
Yeah, there's something. Well, and the book Fry the Brain is just chock full of examples. It's by John West. It's back there, but it's the art of urban sniping and its role in modern guerrilla warfare, and it is by far the best, hands down. We'll call it a conglomeration of every aspect of sniping, from like pre-World War I all the way up until the occupation of Iraq by U.S. forces. So, but it's chock full of snipers getting caught and what happens to them, like horrible shit, like getting tortured, like mutilated, all that stuff.
Well, that's why they go through SEER school too.
Yeah, SEER school. After going through 2 SEER schools, I can say that, like, if you're not in a combat role, SEER is pretty intense. But if you're in a combat role, it's kind of like, I just fucking lost 20 pounds. I got washboard abs. I learned how to kill a rabbit with my hands. No, SEER is important, especially if you're air crewman, and that came about because of Vietnam. But again, you have your conventional SEER, and then you have your special operations SEER. So, like, I went to one up that was done by the Navy, and then I had to go to a second one that was put on by MARSOC. And then if you go to Q course, they have their own there. They have the Air Force actually has a SEER MOS. So it's a robust, it's JPRA, the Joint Personnel Recovery Agency. They go out and actually find dudes that have crashed. And I think we talked about this.
I think we talked about that one with maybe 3 episodes ago.
3 episodes?
Yeah, something like that.
They go out, it's like EOD techs and forensics guys, and they basically dig up graves. They find B-52s and all kinds of cool shit, and they can repatriate the bodies back. Everywhere except for fucking Korea, because North Korea is a bunch of assholes. They'll find our graves and then they'll hoard our bodies, and they do basically like a fucking prisoner swap with corpses. It's so childish. It's stupid.
All right, let's move on to the one we were talking about earlier.
The reconnaissance sniper and how everything happened with that?
No, the longest shot that was done via musket.
Oh, okay. Well, can we also talk about the White Death too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
The 20th longest shot, and all right, so I didn't grow up in America, and I know the Civil War is a sensitive subject with how it comes to the Confederacy and the Union and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave this guy's name out of it. But at the end of the day, this is the 20th furthest shot out of 21 in the world. And this was done by a musket in the Civil War. And it was over 1,000 yards.
What was its target?
A human, a person on a
Like,
horse.
Just a
General.
fucking...
It was. I think it was a general.
Yeah,
it was
that's,
a general.
that's what I
or
was saying.
colonel.
Was it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how high value target?
You remember shooting at 500 yards with your M16 in boot camp, and like I've shot at distances at 800 yards with an RCO, and the furthest I've shot in combat was with a M2 Browning 50 cal Modus.
Yeah,
and at that point I couldn't actually look through the scope, or it wasn't a scope. It was a EOTech.
Yeah,
and it was a cross, and it had a 1 and a 2. And I remember I was standing clear over the barrel of my gun, like Captain Morgan, shooting this thing and watching the tracers go. And I have no idea how far it was. It was at 2,000 or further.
So past the max effective range.
Oh yeah, 100%. And we were shooting at guys that were on fucking motorbikes. And you would just dump rounds, watch them scurry around, dump rounds. You'd see them fall over, and you'd assume it was either you or the guy next to you that's also dumping rounds over there, or maybe one of the guys that are closer. But to think about that, 500 yards, it's hard to see the target. 800 yards, I was basically shooting at a window. That was like, okay, maybe, and it maxes out at 600 on that scope, or the old RCO, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong.
The fucking old ACOGs?
Yeah, the old ACOGs.
Yeah, I think it's 600 yards.
Yeah, so
I've shot at 1,000 with an RCO, and I made my money on the 500 with an RCO with the old ones and the old M16. But
so imagine no scope, you're shooting 400 yards past that.
Nope.
With a musket, a smooth. Sorry, it's not smoothbore. It's rifled. But we were talking a 1 in 66
fucking iron
twist
sights
rate.
too.
Yeah, one. No, he actually had an old. It's basically a tube with glass, so he was able to at least focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, give him a focal point, kind of.
Yeah, it would be like looking through a fucking EOTech. Let's be honest here. So the 1 in 66 twist rate that those muskets had, like that's one twist every 66 inches. We bitch about, 1 in 7, 1 in 8, 1 in 9. Your sniper rifles are 1 in 10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
12. And you're looking at the ballistic coefficients of those 30 caliber rounds, whether it's a 9mm handgun or a 308 or 7.62 by 59 or 7.62 by 59, 7.62 by 54 rimmed. You're looking at those are 30 cal. 30 cal on that G7 ballistic coefficient scale are some of the best. That's why PRC, 300 PRC, 300 blackout, 300 Win Mag, they're all 30 caliber. It's just that magic number to spin an object through the air and fucking evaporate a human being. That's great. I'm shooting a 49 caliber fucking, what they call a Minet ball, which is basically a bullet without a casing, from a fucking rifled musket. That's insane, dude.
That's fucking ridiculous.
And the fact that everybody's lined up like they're about to go fucking line dancing and shooting all their rifles at me, and there's assholes on horseback with fucking swords.
Wait. I have to reload.
It's a fucking Travis Scott concert, all right? That's what's going on right there. And you're fucking just out there sitting in a tree hoping you don't get fucking smoked. And this dude made that shot. That's incredible to me. There's a lot of incredible feats we don't give merit to because everybody sees video games and shit. They're like, oh, I can do that. You get the guys
don't talk
that
shit
are
about
watching,
Call of Duty, all right?
Dude, the motherfuckers that are watching the Olympic Games, like the dad with his beer, he's like, oh, I can do that. It's like, no, you fucking can't. So when I see that, that's a 1 in a million shot. And for that time frame, multiply that by 1 million. That's insane to me.
That's out of all the ones we've talked about, that's definitely my favorite. I mean, Carlos Hathcock will always have his place in my heart, but that one's definitely my favorite.
Well, let's talk about the biggest dick in the room, like girth, size, Simo Haiha, the White Death. Have you heard of this guy?
Put that one in there. No, I didn't. Oh wait, yeah, you did. I see it.
I just can't pronounce it.
Well,
yeah, it's got like those little dots over the top of it.
I'll just stick with White Death.
Okay, so this dude in 100 days killed 504 confirmed 504 confirmed Russian kills. In the snow, sub-zero is about 30 below zero, which, believe it or not, 40 below zero in Celsius and Fahrenheit is 40 below zero equivalent.
Yeah.
So this is sub-freezing temperatures. No scope, using a piece of shit bolt-action rifle. Furthest shot was 1,200. Most of his shots were actually under that. Most of his shots were anywhere from 300 to 600 meters. But you're talking about waves of human beings, tanks, artillery. This is 100 days, sub-zero temperature. This motherfucker's out there no scoping with iron sights. And then he kills an additional 200 Russians with a machine gun. So this dude killed, and that's the ones they know about. God knows how many more. This man probably killed over 1,000 human beings with his fucking booger hook. 100%. 100%. And how they got him, they sent sniper teams after him. They dropped artillery on him. They were trying everything because this dude's nickname was the White Death. That wasn't something that was made up for propaganda. This is what the Russians called him. They were fucking scared of him. And when the Finns used the Moti tactic, we've talked about this, how they would basically surround smaller units, like what the Chechens did to the Russians in Grozny.
Yep.
They would do the same thing, but on a larger scale. This motherfucker stopped entire regiments by himself. That is insane. So this dude's out there, sub-zero temperatures, and he's only like 5'2". Like his rifle is a carbine, which is
a win for the short guys.
A win for the short guys. Where are my tall kings? Yeah. All right. You got nothing on this dude. So he gets shot in the face. He gets shot in the face with an exploding bullet. If you ever look up a picture of this guy, he kind of looks like Dracula. Like it fucked his
like
face
the original
up.
Dracula from the fucking like 20s.
He looks scary.
Or whenever the hell that was.
But this motherfucker was he was basically a wildlife ranger. Is what he was in Finland. And so this dude winds up a Finnish wildlife ranger, goes out. Russians invade his country in 1939. This dude for 100 days straight up goes out and just fucking drops bodies. And he didn't really do much. Like after that, I think he worked in national parks, just led a quiet life. Didn't write any books, didn't go on any podcasts.
Well, they didn't have podcasts back then.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Like he didn't run around screaming, "I shot bin Laden." Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think all of that. And the fact that like we're hitting a point in military right now where there's no major war going on outside of Ukraine. So a lot of this stuff is going away. Like we talked about at the very beginning of this podcast, World War I, we had better sniper equipment than we did starting off in Vietnam. We will lose our ability to have these lessons learned and
that's
the
what
equipment,
I was about to say. That's
the tactics.
That's what we do every
procedures.
fucking time. A war ends and we literally forget everything we fucking learned during that war and we just restart fucking.
And
we go right back to zero.
That's exactly what's happening now. So they've moved the snipers into the reconnaissance battalion. That's fine. Recon can have them.
But recon itself, they were looking at getting rid of for the past couple fucking years.
Yeah, same with MARSOC.
Well,
unless you're in the Marine Corps Band or the Martial Arts Center of Excellence, the
or the
Marine Academy,
or the Marine Corps football team.
Okay, yeah, that too.
Because that's more important.
Insane. So those are more important than, say, what we've used in every major war since we created the arquebus, which is the prototype to a fucking rifle. So it's stupid because you just neutered every single small unit commander from the company level down across the entire Marine Corps of 178,000 men. You have just removed those and put them in 3 fucking battalions, 4 if you include the reserves. And remember how I told you Scout Snipers had a soft level 2 qualification?
Yeah.
They don't have that. That's gone. So all this talk about the Maritime Reaction Force and the Maritime Raid Force and all that jazz, that's great if we're in a conventional war setting. But if we're doing MUTWA, military operations other than war, if we're doing SOLIC, special operations, low intensity conflicts, you're not sending your reconnaissance teams from a boat to a boat for an opposed boarding. And without breaching OPSEC or protocol, you can't do that unless you're special ops. That's the whole reason they have Navy SEALs, whole reason they have Airborne Rangers, whole reason they have MARSOC. You're not going to ever do that job. The only person that will are the Coasties. The Coasties have their own entitlements and authorities. Remember way back when we talked about entitlements and authorities? So you just took our raw capability that can be used by organic infantry commanders, you removed it, and you put it way high up on a pedestal outside of that. So now it can't be disseminated down to the troop level. So when you start to deploy these troops forward, what are you going to do? Break apart your reconnaissance battalion? That worked really good in the initial invasion when you had entire battalions moving in Humvees. What's going to happen?
And fucking canvas Humvees.
What's gonna happen is you're gonna use these designated marksmen that are gonna be like, all we need you to do is shoot. Major war is gonna pop off, and they're gonna be like, we need you to do fieldcraft. We need you to do HF radio. Watch your electronic amplification, your signature, so you don't get a bomb dropped on your head by a fucking quadcopter. You're gonna start asking. Now we need you to wear ghillie suits. Now we need you to go and take out this commander. That's what's gonna happen. And the good thing that is happening right now is a lot of the information is being retained within special operations, which is good. They're not getting rid of that. But when we look at the big army is still saying we need snipers. We need them down at the company level. You know, they can be a battalion level asset that's pushed to the companies. That's great. Your airborne infantry, your light infantry, your Arctic infantry, they're all doing that. The Marine Corps is just going ham bone on smoking crack right now, getting rid of tanks, because tanks aren't being used in Ukraine, are they?
No, they're not. No. Well, by them, they are,
bro. And then we're talking about, so the only thing that they've done so far.
Oh wait, no, we sold a bunch of ours to them, a bunch of the fucking A1s, didn't we?
Yeah, but those are export tanks. Those ones don't have depleted uranium. They don't have armor. They don't have a bunch of the stuff, the things that make them special. We have never lost a U.S. tank to enemy fire. We've lost 2 to friendly fire. Now, we've had shit tons of the export tanks that are M1A1s or A2s that we sell to people that don't have the same capabilities. That we lost one from an Apache that did a strike on our own. They shot a fucking armor-piercing thermobaric round, and people survived. Killed the tank. Can't kill it, but they survived. Also, the first Bradley we lost. Read about that. The H hour of invading Iraq, and a fucking I can't remember what platform it was. Shot the Bradley. Fucking smoked it. Killed like 3 Americans. It sucks, dude. Friendly fire happens, but when we look at these capabilities,
we've lost.
We look at these capabilities, and you see that, you know, we paid in blood in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, starting the GWAT, because we didn't take the things that we had learned and kept them relevant. The Marine Corps is doing the same exact fucking thing, whereas the Army is breaking down to the brigade combat team level, and they're starting to employ more and more assets at the organic infantry level. The Marine Corps is saying, let's get rid of the SAW, let's get rid of the tank, they want to get rid of all
scout snipers,
tube artillery. They want to move to just HIMARS. That's fucking stupid.
Well, they're basically taking us all the way back, to fucking what our initial mission was, which was fucking naval security guards.
Pretty much.
So that's basically what's happening with this fucking force redesign.
And a lot of it has to do with money. It really does. And that's
which we've never had a lot of anyways, but
I mean, we do. If you ever look at the allocation,
that's what I was about to say.
Army bases look like shit. Army training areas are fucking phenomenal. You go to a Marine Corps base, find me a fucking weed. Find me a rock that isn't painted. You go to a Marine Corps training area.
Well, that's because of Lance Corporals, damn it.
Well, that's
because of the best parties there are.
It's money, and we spend so much money on Quantico and on these stupid little side mission quests. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you go to do the Fallout, or you're going to do Skyrim, and you have your main mission quest that gets you all the moolah. Yeah. And then you go on some side mission quest for something stupid, like a pink set of fucking nunchucks. Congratulations. You wasted time doing that. That's stupid. Getting rid of tube artillery, stupid. Getting rid of your snipers, stupid. Getting rid of tanks, stupid. So dumb. And then I
told you the story behind that too when I first found out about that.
Yeah.
The dude that told me was he was my roommate down in Miami. He was an 88 operator when he was still in. He was already out. I was still in. He was like, yeah, you know the Marine Corps is getting rid of tanks, right? And I was like, you're full of shit. No, we wouldn't do that. That completely goes against what a fucking MEU is. That completely goes against the fucking to be able to be there in less than 24 hours with a self-sustaining force for 60 fucking days. So I guess we're not self-sustaining anymore.
What did the Army wind up doing just now? They released a medium tank. It's on it's on one of it's the Bradley or the Stryker chassis. It's a medium tank.
Bradley's tracked, right?
Bradley. It's a Bradley.
Stryker's wheeled, so
it's a Bradley. Yeah. But we look at all this and we go back and we think, hey, while terrorists and our opponents, like the Russians, the Chinese, they are teaching sniper and marksmanship more and more. We have gone away from using iron sights and teaching true marksmanship to these fucking piece of shit RCO. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But before you use the GPS, you need to know how to use your map, compass, protractor.
Yep.
Before you fucking learn how to
before
put
you
sutures
get a fucking
in somebody,
Garmin.
Yeah. Before you need to put sutures in somebody, you should learn how to put it on a tourniquet. Before you decide to go and investigate a homicide, you should know how to cuff and book somebody. It blows my mind that it's 2023 and we're acting like it's 1923. That's exactly what's going on. We're just forgetting everything we did. But I don't know. Can I get it? Let me get a pull off that bad.
Yeah,
that's not that bad.
You fucking kill that guy. There's a
little bit left. There's a little bit left. Do you want
your nootropics? Now you got
the nootropics are, dude. It honestly, it works.
I'm gonna be up raging all night now.
It'd be
fucking glow stick parties and shit downtown.
Dance punching my rage out.
Yeah. All right, guys. Do you got anything else you want to add?
What the next episode?
Oh, did we put that in there? Actually, yeah. You pronounce that shit. That's all you, buddy.
Oh, per mare, per terra, per calium. It's Latin by land, sea, and air. We'll talk about insert methods. We'll talk about wacky ones. We'll talk about some really wacky ones. And we'll talk about the best ones where you just step out of a fucking vehicle.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. With that, that's going to conclude episode 26. No headshots, please.
No headshots.
No headshots, please. So quick announcement. Obviously, this is the new studio. We've moved on to chapter 2 of the podcast now. No more casting couch.
Oh man.
At least for now. We might, get a casting couch in here. Maybe.
We do
I don't know. I've had requests for that.
A black light episode.
Nods.
Just
do a whole fucking episode with nods. All right, guys. With that, we'll see you next time. I'm Pat.
I'm Lobo.
What's our
if it's
peace in the Middle East?
Yeah, we'd be out of a job.
And if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah, it's not stupid.
All right, guys. Peace.
Let's do this.